Hello, good evening. 4,000 Israeli troops are tonight engaged in fierce fighting inside the Gaza Strip, defying calls from the international community for a ceasefire. Palestinian officials say 540 people have lost their lives since the offensive against the militant group Hamas began 10 days ago. I'm going to get all the very latest from the region now. We're going straight to Jerusalem. My colleague Lise Doucette is there.
In Jerusalem.
Welcome to Jerusalem. Tonight, Israel's Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is having dinner with the French President Nicolas Sarkozy. Israel and France are good friends, and a short time ago, Mr. Sarkozy said he would speak to Israel with the frankness that friends should. He would be calling for a ceasefire as soon as possible. The French president, though, had harsh words for Hamas. He accused them of operating in an irresponsible manner. And what is Mr. Olmert likely to say? Well, he said he'll listen to his friends, but now is not the time for a ceasefire. Not when Israel is consolidating its hold on Gaza. Its troops are now occupying large parts of the Gaza Strip, mostly operating in the north. There's been heavy fighting around some of the densely populated towns, including Gaza City. But no soldiers have moved into the populated areas yet. Israeli troops have also divided Gaza in two, and they're also bombing in the south of Gaza, around the tunnels close to the Egyptian border. Well, international journalists are still not being allowed to enter the Gaza Strip, but we have this report from our Middle East editor, Jeremy Bowen.
This was a bomb hitting the crowded streets of Rafah on Gaza's border with Egypt. The message from Israel is that it's interested in a ceasefire, but not yet. That means no respite for Gaza civilians. Israel says it tries not to hurt them. It says all this is the fault of Hamas. Try telling that to the people in Gaza's overwhelmed hospitals.
There were some trucks a few days ago that were able to enter with some trucks coming from Ramallah and for other agencies, but they still are missing some items, and there is a big problem in distribution. As we are under bombing, increasing bombing, so we have a huge problem on distribution of the drugs.
This is what happens when a modern army uses heavy weapons in a place packed full of young families. Israel wants to keep on fighting until it's destroyed Hamas's capacity to hit its soldiers and civilians. It believes Israeli forces are making important progress, which is why it doesn't want to stop yet. Hamas rockets are still hitting Israel. Israel argues that any country in the world would do what it's doing to protect its people. The Israeli finance minister was caught up in an alert.
We'll try to do our best to stop the rockets and to stop all supplements of ammunition to those guys in Gaza Street. Thank you very much.
Foreign envoys are here busy looking for a ceasefire. Their work will be slow until the Americans decide that Israel is as close as it can be to securing its objectives. From his hiding place in Gaza, the senior Hamas leader, Mahmoud Zahar, sent out a message. He told Palestinians they were paying a tax for resisting Israel and that victory would come. Part of the Israeli strategy is to show Palestinians that they will pay a heavy price if they support Hamas. Their offensive is also designed to send a message to enemies elsewhere in the Middle East, not least Iran, that they should think very carefully before taking on Israel. This man in Gaza has just said goodbye to his dead family. He has paid the highest price imaginable, and he won't be the last. Here on the border, now it's got dark, there's a lot of military activity. I can hear helicopters in the sky and the sound, too, of outgoing artillery fire heading for Gaza. In Jerusalem tonight, they're talking about ceasefires, but down here the war's going on. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, on the Israel-Gaza border.
Well, Israel has repeatedly insisted its war is not with the people of Gaza, but with Hamas. But the residents are clearly suffering. The BBC's Rushdi Abu Alouf has been to visit a mosque that has been repeatedly targeted, as well as Gaza's main Shifa hospital.
This is the rubble of Abu Hasira Mosque, one of the mosques that has been hit by Israeli Air Force. More than 500 Israeli airstrikes targeted installations for Hamas. Israel is accusing Hamas of storing weapons and Grad rockets inside mosques. Hamas denying this story and saying that this is a religious places. More than 500 people have been killed since the beginning of the Israeli offensive, and Hamas is still firing rockets toward the Israeli cities. We are inside the emergency room of Shifa Hospital, where hundreds of kids, women and children have been brought to this hospital for medical treatment. Doctors are struggling here to cope with the situation. We have seen as many as 900 people are being treated in that hospital. The doctors are talking about running out of medicine. Every essential medication is being a heavy shortage here in Gaza, as well as blood. Israelis keep saying that they are not targeting civilians, they are targeting Hamas. From your point of view as a foreigner, how can you answer this question?
I would say it's a stupid, it's an absolutely stupid statement. We know among all the hundreds we have seen so far, we have seen 2 fighters. The statistics are clear. Among the 2,500 injured, 45% are women and children. And then there are also all the civilian men. So the large majority of the injured, the victims, are women, men and children, civilian. Among the killed, 25% of the killed are children and women. And among the children, today, this morning, it was 801 children either killed or injured. 101 children have been killed. So these numbers are contradictory to everything the Israelis.
Is there enough supplies in the hospital to treat all of these high numbers of casualties?
No, it is not. And I ask, where is the international community who has this big organization to come to disasters? We are 2 doctors from the West. Where are the others? They are not let in because the Israelis say there is no disaster. Now, how can they know? They never came here. They never saw. They don't care. So this is the worst man-made disaster for the time I can think.
Doctor, the last question. For how long do you think this hospital can survive without medication?
Not very long. People are dying now because of lack of supplies. We have all operating rooms are full. Yesterday we were operating 2 patients in 1 operating room. The patients have to wait a long time for surgery, and they are dying waiting for surgery. So this is a complete disaster.
Rushdie Abu Alouf in Gaza, and tonight again for the 10th night since Operation Cast Lead began, Gaza is under attack. We can join our correspondent Bethany Bell. She's on the Israeli side of the Gaza border. Bethany, just tell us what you've been seeing and hearing.
Well, just in the last few minutes, Lise, we've seen a number of Israeli military ambulances passing on the road. And just a little while ago, we saw behind me, the hills behind me, large flares. And there was some speculation that some kind of medical evacuation may have been underway. But we have no confirmation of this. Now, there's also been a lot of outgoing artillery fire right above us, have been a number of other Israeli helicopters, so no sign tonight that there is any sign of let-up here on the border, but that the operation is continuing.
And throughout the day, since you've been there, the signs too that the rocket attacks by militants in Gaza haven't stopped?
The Israeli army says more than 30 rocket attacks happened on Israel today. They hit areas around Ashdod, Ashkelon. Apparently in Ashdod, a kindergarten was hit. The kindergarten itself at the time was empty. But that Hamas seems to be showing no sign of stopping its rocket attacks on Israel. And both sides, it seems, committing themselves to pushing on further in and continuing with this bloodshed.
Bethany Bell on Israel's border with the Gaza Strip. Israel has said its offensive will have to continue until there's peace and stability in the south. That hasn't been achieved yet. And that's the message it's giving to what have been a whole flurry of envoys arriving here. There's been one from Russia, a European Union delegation headed by the Czech Foreign Ministry. Czech Republic is now heading the presidency of the European Union. And another delegation of the French President Nicolas Sarkozy. The UN's envoy, Tony Blair, is also in the region. Our World Affairs correspondent Mike Waldridge takes a look at all of the diplomacy gathering steam.
France's President Sarkozy, the most high-profile player in a sudden flurry of diplomacy on day 10 of the Gaza conflict, also involving a separate European Union delegation and the Middle East envoy, Tony Blair. But the question, would it all hasten an end to the escalating crisis on the ground? Egypt first stop for both the French leader and the Czech-led EU delegation. An exploration with President Mubarak of the apparently unpromising prospects for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Egypt has a decidedly ambivalent relationship with Hamas, which won elections in Gaza after Israel's withdrawal and then forcibly evicted the rival Palestinian Fatah movement from the territory. But thanks to their common border with Gaza and Israel, the Egyptians crucial to the search for a solution to this crisis. That acknowledged by the EU delegation after their meeting with the Egyptian president.
We would like very much to obtain a ceasefire, the sooner the better.